Hello, and a very warm welcome to today's show entitled Values, Virtues, Ethics and Morality. My name is Mangela Pillay and I come from South Africa, and I'm here today in the studio with Sister Denise, who has been practicing Rajyoga Meditation and is a teacher within the Brahma Kumaris for over 40 years. Sister Denise brings with her to the studio today a wealth of wisdom in respect of the topic that we're going to take up, which, well, I have to read this out. It's called Kill the Snake Without Breaking the Stick. The topic is called Kill the Snake Without Breaking the Stick. If you do not know what that means, you are not alone, neither do I. But thankfully we have Sister Denise with us today who will share her answers on this subject. If you look at the background behind us, we are in a Greek style setting, and that is because the format of the show is one of Socratic dialogue, which means that I will be asking questions, and the aim of my questions is to elicit an expression of truth, which Socrates thought should be knowable by all rational human beings. And we want to look at the world's conventional views on morality. We'd like to analyze, dialogue, and question as to why people think, behave, and speak the way they do. And more particularly, we want to look at things like the human conscience. So to enlighten us on this fascinating topic is Sister Denise. A very warm welcome to you, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mangela.
So please tell us how you would define this topic. I understand that it's an expression that's well known in India, but it's certainly very strange to somebody who comes from outside this country.
You see the picture of a snake, and someone kills that snake by hitting it in exactly the right spot, with exactly the right amount of pressure, at exactly the right speed, and then that snake is instantly killed. This is symbolic for that negative energy that is there in the human being. Not breaking the stick is symbolic for, the word we use is, don't throw out the baby along with the bathwater. And so the bathwater is what you don't need. The snake is the negativity. Breaking the stick means you're breaking the person. So if you want to destroy a person, what's so great about that? If you really want to relieve a person of their sins, their negativities, their propensities to do antisocial action, what you also have to do is preserve the person so that they can move forward as an integrated, responsible member of society. So this is what that expression means, and it's often said to people, kill the snake, okay, get rid of the bad thing, okay, but be careful, don't break the stick. That is, don't destroy the whole thing in the name of getting rid of the negativity, which means we have to have a touch that is not too heavy. There should not be undue force used. There should not be excessive force. And very often we find that in the name of correcting someone, people will pull out all of their negativity and put it on that perceived to be negative person, and that person will be destroyed. And they will say, well, this was correct, we got justice, but I think they got revenge.
Okay. Are you of the opinion that every single human being on the planet, irrespective of their conduct in this birth alone, is rehabilitatable?
I think that we can look at it a different way, which is that every single human being is originally pure, peaceful, powerful, loveful, blissful, and perfect. And then what happens to a person and how they react to the things that happen to them, whether they are rehabilitatable is perhaps possible, but whether they are likely to be rehabilitated, that probably not. There's so many people in such a bad situation that I think it's unrealistic to say that. But to view people as essentially pure, essentially redeemable, you can say, as opposed to rehabilitatable, redeemable, then you see that would be the perspective or the view that God would have on that soul. People, on the other hand, would say, for so many, they say, oh, well, this one is just so bad, we don't even want to rehabilitate them, you see. So the attitude of people who want to play God is very different from the attitude of God. So I think a lot of it has to do with that people who are in positions of moral authority make assumptions about God, who is the ultimate moral authority, and then they adopt that attitude, thinking that they're behaving as God would, except that God wouldn't. And so I think really taking a look at what would be the perspective of God on a person who has done very wrong things is worthwhile. And I mean, in the Christian Bible, there's a number of parables of that nature, which people haven't really taken on board, but they exist,
If an individual is interested in self-improvement, and the moment he does that, he looks at himself and goes, I've become a horrible, horrible person. Okay? He can see more bad in him than good, and so can everyone else around him. Okay? Where does he start? How does he kill his own demons, or obliterate rather his own demons, and without breaking the stick? How do you do that? It sounds wonderful in theory. How do you put it into practice?
I think that any human being at the present time, if they could see themselves with that dispassionate eye, every single one would feel that way about themselves. It's not just a category of people who are defined as bad people who might hypothetically feel that way. So where do you start? One's relationship with one's demons is very important. Now the demons in a person, the snakes or whatever, they lie buried in the subconscious. And this is why you can't see them. Certain situations open up that veil, and you are able for a moment or two to see just how far away you have gone from your original state, to be able to feel that deep feeling of disgust towards the self, or horror at what one has made oneself. But that is very, very fleeting, and there's like a mechanism inside the human consciousness that actually closes that door. So a very important part of spiritual process and rehabilitation is to find ways and use those ways to open up that veil, because until we can see until we can feel, we are not motivated to do anything about it. You see, if you ask a person, what is your pain? If it's said at the right time in the right way, it itself, just that question, might be enough to open up the veil just a little bit, and a person would feel it for a second, because there's a kind of survival mechanism that says we don't go there. We cannot bear to feel that. It's too extreme, you know. But at the same time, without getting just a fleeting glimpse, you can't see, okay, this is the snake that you have to kill, but you're not trying to destroy yourself. Now, the moralistic views would try to make a person feel so much shame and guilt that they get them to destroy themselves. But that is not a good thing. That's killing the snake and breaking the stick, and probably the snake will escape and your stick is in pieces. But to actually see that which is not good within oneself in an extremely safe and supportive environment actually makes it possible for the person to say, yes, I have become this. I can feel it, and I do not want it. And they can then make a decision. I choose to be my real pure self, and I choose to not go where those snakes are driving me, you see. That means the subconscious does drive a person's actions, feelings, thinking, and if a person doesn't know where that's coming from, they think it's, they think they have no choice, or they don't see where it's coming from. They think that it's a reality that is not within them, but an external reality. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And so a very positive thing to do with a person is to listen to them. Because when you create a very supportive environment and you listen to a person and you let them kind of speak what's going on inside them, then they can kind of go deeper and deeper through different layers of feelings, and hopefully they can touch this original pain, or touch their pain, which is what is driving the reactive behavior. And once you've touched it, once you've seen it, you can say, oh, I understand why I feel this way. And that gives you power over it. And if you do this in a very, very supportive environment, it doesn't break the stick. If you do it by shaming, blaming, torturing and tormenting the person, then the snake will escape and the stick will be in pieces.
Sister Denise, where would one realistically find such a supportive environment in today's world? I mean, you're referring to the psychologist's couch, or you're referring to one's mother, you're referring to a friend? Where would one find such a supportive environment? It sounds wonderful, but reality?
Reality, there are when you find people who are in the same boat and they work in the format of the self-help process, that is probably the most enduring support system that you can have, because the other people are in the same boat, so they have a vested interest in being part of an enduring system. You see, so you will get groups of drug addicts, you'll get groups of sexual predators, you'll get groups of violent people who are in the same boat, people who are dealing with the same demon, you know. So then you don't hide your demon from the other people in that situation, because it's open. Hey, we're all in the same boat. And also it's isolated from people who are not in that boat. And therefore they become able and willing to open up. So that is probably the best support system. And this kind of self-help environment, it has been found to be so effective and so powerful over the long term that it is proliferated and is quite widespread throughout the world.
Okay, so coming back to the topic itself, what you are saying is that irrespective of how dark one's dark side is, because the human soul is originally those five original qualities, that the darkness is just being superimposed on that, and it can go away?
Darkness isn't a thing in itself. Darkness is when there isn't light.
Okay, your negative qualities.
Even then, negative qualities are, you see, a person.
Okay, sorry, my question is, what do you do with your dark side? If you, one buys what you just said as to wanting to kill the snake but not break the stick, how do you do it?
Put light.
What does that mean?
Put light means there is several kinds of light. One is the light of understanding, information. Another is light in the sense of, don't be heavy about it. Don't think that it's so bad. Take it in your stride. Be all right about it. Light in that sense. Light in the sense of when you illuminate the subject and see it clearly, then the pejorative views about it are brought into something realistic. You see, the dark side of a person has been considered to be bad, whereas it's just dark. Night is not inherently bad. Dark doesn't mean bad. But because people have equated dark with bad and light with good, they do all sorts of things to make you look light, seem fair, whatever it is. This is where the whole question of skin color discrimination originates, you see.
Hold on. What does that mean? Say more about that.
If a person's skin color is light, they will say, well, this is a good person. And if a person's skin color is dark, the darker it is, the more bad the person is. You see, this is prejudice. And that prejudice extends in all kinds of ways. And it comes from the idea that the dark side of a person is bad, should be destroyed, should never have happened in the first place. There's all this should, you see. Whereas what spirituality says is, you know what? There is light and there is dark, and that's the way things are. So there's no should, would, could, or must, or shouldn't, or wouldn't, or couldn't about it. You have to deal with the reality that there is dark and there is light, and they work together. And your attitude towards your purity, your light, is don't be impressed with yourself. And towards your dark is don't be horrified at yourself. Neither impressed nor horrified, because the dark side is normal and the light side is normal. And you have to come to terms with the fact that just like any 24-hour period, there's night and there's day. And if you would go to the very far north of the planet in the summertime, then there is no night. It's very uncomfortable. A soul needs this combination of dark and light, but the moralistic traditions have interfered with that natural need and said, no, everything should be light. We don't like dark. There's no good. That's not a very good approach. It's there, it's been there for a long time, but it has basically failed humanity, because the reality is you have your demons and they may not feel good, but they have a purpose and they have a function. And what they do is they force you to see the totality of yourself. And if you don't see the totality of yourself, you cannot have humility, you cannot be real, and you also cannot be in your self-honor and dignity with also the ability to honor any other human being, you see. Because you're looking at things with most of the reality hidden from view because you don't like what you see, because of feelings, you see. When you see, okay, you have a demon inside, fair enough. That demon is free to make you do wrong action. Once you see that, you say, why are they free? Who says they're free to do that? Let me intervene and limit their freedom to do that. But it doesn't mean that I hate the demon. I understand the demon. It has a function. But when that demon is free to take over me, that's the part that's not okay. And if you deny it, if you pretend it's not there, it controls you. And that is the problem, rather than the demon itself.
Sister Denise, a lot of people find themselves in a condition of being in a lot of internal conflict as a result of their good and dark side. For example, some person would not want to be one who engages in road rage every time he gets behind his wheel, but you find that he cannot help himself. One hears that expression quite commonly. In other words, you want to overcome your dark side, but you just simply do not know how. And so there's this internal world war going on, internal war, okay? So what would be the answer to that?
That person would need to go deep and deep and deep and see, okay, road rage may be a symptom of something deeper. If you say, my problem is road rage, okay, now keep looking. And what you find is your problem is not road rage. A symptom is road rage. Your problem is something much deeper. If you go down there, you're going to feel the intensity of your inner agony. And if you don't feel that, you will not be able to have mastery over the symptom of road rage. You see, going there and coming to terms with that agony and developing the power to manage that agony so that it doesn't control you, then you are a master of yourself, you see. And this is what I'm suggesting. Go there and understand your agony, and understand and accept that it's part of you, and also accumulate the spiritual power that you can hold that agony. And that also enables you to be compassionate, because you need to understand that you're not the only one who's holding agony. There's a lot of people out there holding agony, and they need to be able to, or there needs to be somebody who can feel it, recognize it, touch it, and say, okay, yeah, this is the agony of the current state of humanity, and we have to manage it, and not be pushed around by it as we are, by denying it.
I met someone once who said he doesn't feel anything at all, he just feels numb all the time. What causes one to land in that particular position? I consider him to be a good person, but he said he feels numb all the time. So he says there's no happiness, no sorrow, but he just floats through life. And I always think that there's a huge problem with that. But is that common?
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately, yes. What is the answer to that?
A person feels numb because their agony is so unbearable that they just are blocked from it, or they have blocked themselves from it subconsciously. And so you can't feel, there are some psychotropic drugs which do this. They keep you in a sort of middle place where you can never feel the highs so that you never feel the lows. And so they say, well, if you are bipolar, then, no highs, no lows, just be somewhere in the gray area in the middle, that's better. So, okay, fair enough. And then there are people for whom that is part of their inner process, and so they are numb. And clearly they don't want to be numb, because when you say I'm numb, it means there's something that I need to feel, but I can't feel it, just like an anesthetic. But why do people get given an anesthetic? Is because that kind of pain interferes with the operations. Somebody be sort of jumping around, dealing with the pain of being cut open or having their teeth drilled or whatever. So in the same way, emotionally, psychically, people who have that very extreme agony, which may be because of neglect or because of never experiencing love, or because of being badly treated in some way or the other, could be even a very extreme kind of abuse. In an extremely young child, they will check out. It's known as checking out. They leave their body, and the bad thing never happens to them consciously, but it goes straight to the subconscious, where it stays, and it causes people to behave in certain ways over which they have no control, because it's not conscious. So a person who says, I'm numb, we can say, well, there is some very deep trauma inside, there's a very deep agony inside. And when that person detects that, or concludes that, there's something going on inside me and I want access to it, this desire to get access to it will help them to find the things that can open up those gates. And they have to slowly feel the deep agony, and then they can also, as a result of that, become able to feel the pure love that is also the most nurturing thing for the human soul.
What does a person have to change externally to support this process? Is this all of that what you just described, is it just internal work, or has something got to change on the outside as well?
Probably. Once a person says, I want to go in there, just that very act of saying I want to go in there, and anything they do to support that is going to cause them to perceive themselves differently, perceive life differently, respond to things differently, and so there will be a change that happens in their external situation, but it might be quite slow. And if it's not slow, it's difficult for them to manage. Slow shifting is, you can adjust to it.
Yeah, okay. So Denise, I think that that's all we have time for today. And I must say this is, I'm speaking on behalf of the people watching this show, that this is news to a lot of people, that one can actually do that, because I think with most of us who even care to introspect, that we have the attitude that there's aspects of my personality I simply want to write off because I don't like it. And what I liked about what you said is that because, the soul is eternal, you can't actually write off anything. You have to repair, which is very sweet and kind and, humane, more humane. and you've given myself and the audience a lot to think about, and I think it's quite inspiring for people to hear this, because there are many who are watching the show today who they have no idea how to manage their dark side, and who also do not know where to begin to put things right. And so I think your talk has given people a lot of hope, and so thank you very much for doing that. Sister Denise has shared how not to treat yourself, how why not to hate yourself, and simply to accept your dark side as part of who you are, rather than reject yourself. I think that is the deepest message for me, never to reject any part of yourself, even though it's maybe something that you do not like. So I thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today, and thank you at home for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon for other episodes. Thank you and goodbye.